13 messiest divorces of Hollywood's golden age, where love turned to war, contracts were shredded, and the gossip columns had a field day. So, grab your popcorn and let's dive into the drama. Mickey Rooney and Ava Gardner. Mickey Rooney was Hollywood's golden boy, 21, energetic, and on top of the world. Ava Gardner, just 19, stunning, and fresh off the farm in North Carolina. They married in 1942, in a secret ceremony, studio approved, of course. MGM wanted Mickey to seem settled, and Ava was the perfect good girl image. But reality hit fast. Mickey partied non-stop. Ava wanted depth, passion, adventure. He thought she was too serious. She called him a boy, not a man. The marriage lasted less than a year. But the divorce? Pure chaos. Ava filed first, citing mental cruelty. Mickey was devastated and humiliated. Studios panicked. America's sweetheart just dumped our biggest star. Worse, Ava quickly moved onto matinee idol Artie Shaw. The press painted her as a heartless seductress. Mickey's image took a hit. He went from lovable Andy Hardy to jilted kid. Ironically, they stayed friends for life. But in 1942, this breakup sent shockwaves through Tinseltown. Lana Turner and Tyrone Power. Lana Turner, the original sweater girl, and Tyrone Power, the dashing swashbuckler, seemed like Hollywood royalty. They married in 1948, both at the peak of their fame. But behind closed doors, trouble brewed. Tyrone was restless. He wanted to break free from his pretty boy roles. Lana was insecure, jealous, and drinking heavily. Then came the rumors. Tyrone was seeing other women. Maybe men too. In that era, even a whisper could destroy you. The final straw? Lana discovered love letters. She filed for divorce in 1949 after just 1 year of marriage. Studios went into crisis mode. Both were box office gold. Now they were damaged goods. Publicists worked overtime. It's amicable. They're still friends. But photos showed Lana sobbing in court. Tyrone looking grim. The divorce was granted, but their careers never fully recovered the fairy tale glow. Love in Hollywood? Sometimes it was just another role. Elizabeth Taylor and Conrad Nicky Hilton. In 1950, 8-year-old Elizabeth Taylor married hotel heir Conrad Nicky Hilton Jr. It was the wedding of the decade. Its budget was over $2 million, which makes over $25 million today. It had a pink champagne fountain and guests flown in from around the world. MGM loved it. Liz was their biggest star, now tied to a billionaire. But the fairy tale crumbled fast. Nicky was abusive, verbally and physically. He drank heavily, humiliated Liz in public, and called her just another actress. After 9 months, Liz fled to the mother's house, and filed for divorce. The scandal exploded. Hilton tried to fight it, but Liz had witnesses, bruises, and a powerful studio behind her. The court awarded her $100,000, and MGM spun it as Liz escaping a nightmare. Liz's image shifted from innocent child star to troubled woman. And this was just marriage has shown of 8. Studios panicked but also saw opportunity. Drama sold tickets. And Elizabeth Taylor? She was just getting started. Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini. This wasn't just a messy divorce, it was a global firestorm. Ingrid Bergman was America's sweetheart, pure, elegant, Oscar-winning star of Casablanca and Time's Gaslight asterisk. Married to dentist Peter Lindstrom, she seemed the perfect wife and mother. She met Italian director Roberto Rossellini. They began an affair while filming Stromboli in 1949. She got pregnant while still married. When the news broke, Hollywood exiled her. Senator Edwin C. Johnson even condemned her on the Senate floor. She's a powerful influence for evil. Her divorce from Lindstrom was brutal custody battles, international lawsuits, tabloids calling her a homewrecker. MGM dropped her. Fans burned her photos. She couldn't work in America for 7 years. But Ingrid didn't apologize. She moved to Italy, made art films with Roberto, and lived on her own terms. Eventually, Hollywood welcomed her back. She won Time's 2 more Oscars asterisk. But in 1950, this divorce didn't just end a marriage, it ended a career temporarily. And studios, they learned, never underestimate a woman who chooses love over image. Rita Hayworth and Orson Welles. Rita Hayworth, the love goddess, married Orson Welles, the boy genius behind Time's Citizen Kane asterisk in 1943. It seemed perfect. Glamour meets intellect. But reality? Total mismatch. Orson traveled constantly, ignored Rita, and spent their money on his films. Rita wanted stability, a home, a family. She got pregnant, but Orson barely noticed. While she was giving birth, he was in South America filming a documentary. The final blow? Rita discovered Orson's affair with their babysitter. She filed for divorce in 1947, citing extreme cruelty. Custody of their daughter, Rebecca, became a bitter fight. Studios were furious. Columbia Pictures had built Rita's image as the ultimate pinup. Now she was abandoned, heartbroken. Not exactly sexy, but Rita used the pain. She made Time's Gilda, Time's the film that made her a legend right after the split. Orson, he drifted into exile, broke and brilliant. Their divorce proved even love between a goddess and a genius, Carole Lombard and William Powell. Carole Lombard and William Powell were Hollywood's golden couple in the 1930s. Funny, stylish, deeply in love. They married in 1931, but by 1933 they'd separated. They tried an open marriage, rare for the time. Both dated others, thinking it would keep the spark alive. The jealousy, the late nights, the rumors, it all became too much. Their divorce in 1933 was quiet, painful. Here's the twist: they stayed best friends. When Carole later married Clark Gable, William gave her away at the wedding. But tragedy struck in 1942. Carole died in a plane crash at 33. Studios had worried their modern marriage would scandalize fans. But in the end, their love was real, even if it didn't fit the script. Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner. This wasn't a divorce, it was a 3-year emotional war. Frank Sinatra, the biggest singer in the world, was married and fading fast when he met Ava Gardner in 1949. She was wild, independent, and didn't care about his fame. He was obsessed. He left his wife, Nancy, and their 3 kids for Ava. Public outcry followed. Catholic groups boycotted his records. Radio stations banned his songs. But Frank didn't care. He married Ava in 1951. Then, fights began. They screamed, threw things, cheated on each other. Ava called him controlling. Frank called her cruel. Ava filed for divorce. Studios were in chaos. MGM had banked on Ava's star power. Capitol Records feared Frank's career was over. But here's the kicker: they never stopped loving each other. Ava later said, "Frank was the love of my life and my biggest mistake." Messy? Absolutely. But real? Undeniably. Judy Garland and Vincente Minnelli. Judy Garland and director Vincente Minnelli looked like a Hollywood fairy tale, 2 artists who seemed to conjure magic on command. They first connected on Meet Me in Street Louie, where her luminous performance and his painterly eye fused into a technicolor dream. The chemistry spilled from the set to real life. They married in 1945, and soon came their daughter, Liza Minnelli, a living link between 2 titans of show business. On paper, it was perfect. A director known for elegance and control. A star with a voice that could hush a room and a face that absorbed light like velvet. But, away from the musical numbers, the story tilted. Judy was already carrying years of pressure studio diets, little white pills to wake up and go to sleep, and the impossible task of being Judy Garland at all hours. Vincente, precise and reserved, tried to restore order, calm schedules, careful sets, measured rehearsals. But Judy's storms didn't respect call sheets. Panic would arrive uninvited. Exhaustion came in waves. Some days she was dazzling. Other days she couldn't move. He wanted harmony. She needed rescue. Studio wanted reliability and profits. Old Hollywood didn't offer treatment plans or gentle timelines. It offered contracts, publicity, and, if necessary, replacement. As cracks widened, the marriage slipped into triage. Vincente arranged doctors, pauses, and new starts. Judy countered with bursts of brilliance, followed by collapses so deep people spoke in whispers. By 1950, marriage ended. Publicists packaged the breakup as civilized, mutual, and modern, two artists parting ways with respect. Studios, still desperate to harness her star power, tried again and again to frame Judy as back and better. But even at her strongest, the audience could sense the cost. Liza would later say, in that heartbreaking way children of artists speak, they loved each other, but they couldn't survive each other. And that's the cruel truth here. Talent alone can't repair a life. Love can't fix a system that treats people like fuel. They built something beautiful on screen, but the off-screen scaffolding never held. A marriage founded on art needs more than applause. It needs rest, compassion, and time. Three things classic Hollywood rarely gave: Clark Gable and Maria Langham. Before Carole Lombard, before the epic romance posters, Clark Gable's private life played a different tune. He had married the socialite Rhea Maria Langham, a woman older, wealthy, and decidedly not enchanted by studio games. She didn't crave premieres, flashbulbs, or quote-ready interviews. She wanted quiet, dignity, and a life that didn't require performance. Was fast becoming a national symbol, the cool, unflappable leading man whose grin could kick the hinges off a box office door. They tried to meet in the middle, they really did. But the pendulum swung toward the studio clock, not the kitchen clock. As Gable's star rose, so did the pressure to keep his image spotless. Every dinner a photo op, every weekend a gossip item, every frown a headline. The marriage frayed. Old Hollywood treated divorces like wars. MGM preferred its King of Hollywood immaculate. Any rumor became a crisis to be managed and neutralized. Enter Carole Lombard, the whip-smart comedienne, with a heart like a bell. Their chemistry was effortless. The public adored them, and the new story took hold immediately. A king who found his queen. Fate intervened: Lombard's tragic plane crash. In that catastrophe, Gable's public and private worlds collided into grief. He never spoke of Maria again in public. Bette Davis and Arthur Farnsworth. Bette Davis, the stare that could split a lie in two, the diction that turned dialogue into steel. By 1940, she'd earned power the hard way, fight by fight, role by role. When she married Arthur Farnsworth, but the quiet was an illusion. Money slipped from her purse. Checks were forged. Explanations never added up. Bette wasn't just a star. She was a woman who understood audits of the heart. The man she'd trusted was siphoning off her labor. Arthur collapsed, and soon after, he died. Official reports spoke of a brain injury. Studios, forever allergic to scandal, stepped back. But retreating was never Bette's style. She returned with Now, Voyager, poised, controlled, devastating, and turned pain into precision. Another Oscar nomination, another volley of proof. And I work harder. In interviews, Bette spoke with a kind of clean toughness that made her immortal. "I'm married for love," she could have said, and got a con man. The story isn't just a scandal. It's a parable. Brilliance doesn't inoculate you against betrayal. Even the strongest can be fooled. And yet, look at the arc. She didn't vanish, she sharpened. She didn't apologize, she amplified. Hollywood often punished women for private pain. Bette weaponized it into art. Charlie Chaplin and Joan Barry. Now, to a case that wasn't just messy, it twisted the law, consumed the press, and rewired the industry's understanding of privacy. In 1943, actress Joan Barry accused Charlie Chaplin of fathering her child. Chaplin denied paternity, calling their relationship brief and over. What should have been a private matter detonated into a national spectacle. The FBI lurked at the edges. Headlines branded Chaplin a moral leper. The kind of phrase newspapers loved in those days, gleeful cruelty dressed as moral clarity. Courtrooms became theaters. Barry's mental health history became evidence. Chaplin's past relationships, especially with younger women, were hauled into the light like contraband. The proceedings were steeped in a dated legal framework. Science said one thing, optics and outrage said another. Blood tests indicated Chaplin wasn't the father yet. The jury still ordered him to pay support under laws that discounted the science. The courtroom's logic belonged to an earlier era. The headlines belonged to a feeding frenzy. For Chaplin, the verdict felt like exile stamped by gavel. He left for Switzerland and never returned to live in the country whose cinematic language he had helped invent. The studios took a hard lesson. If a titan could be toppled by scandal, none of their idols were safe. Privacy vaults grew thicker, contracts bulked up with moral clauses. Publicists learned new levels of damage control. But there's another lesson here about how America mashes together morality and celebrity. The case showed that once the public decides a story about you, proving otherwise is nearly impossible. Truth travels slowly. Rumor has wings. And while the courts eventually evolve, reputations do not heal on a timetable. Chaplin's artistry survived. The Gold Rush, city lights, the modern times. But the man discovered what so many stars learn. The price of fame is that your life becomes a courtroom where everyone is on the jury. Lizabeth Scott and Mortimer Hall. Film noir crowned Lizabeth Scott with an image, cool as chrome, eyes like midnight, a voice dipped in cigarette smoke. She built an aura of mystery unreadable, untouchable, perfectly framed by Venetian blind shadows. In that era, mystery wasn't just branding, it was strategy. Studios insisted their leading women appear perpetually available to the fantasy. Marriage could dent the illusion, and illusions sold tickets. In this story, the marriage remained under wraps, a private choice in a town that hates secrets. When it finally surfaced through a very public filing for divorce, the rupture was violent. Fans felt blindsided. How could this icy siren have a real-world spouse we didn't know about? Studios raged at the loss of narrative control. The gossip trades ate it with both hands. Claims flew that she was distant, married to her work, incapable of normal affection. We know this pattern. When men devote themselves to craft, they're serious. When women do it, they're cold. The career fallout was swift. The carefully calibrated mystique, the delicate balance of fantasy and reality shattered. Projects cooled, calls slowed. A few more films landed, the arc bent away from peak stardom. In the long shadow of the studio era, we still hear the echo. Women in Hollywood have always been punished for managing their own privacy. Here's the larger point. If a studio can sell a dream, it believes it owns every piece of the dreamer. Her face, her voice, her calendar, and, if possible, her heart. The secrecy here wasn't just a personal choice, it was self-defense. But once the seal broke, the town demanded a public reckoning. That's the noir ending no one writes on a poster. In a place built on shadows, truth can be the brightest and most unforgiving light of all. Errol Flynn and Nora Eddington. Finally, the loudest, wildest, most combustible story of them all. Errol Flynn, the patron saint of panache, lived like his characters swashbuckled. When he married Nora Eddington in the 1940s, she was young, hopeful, and magnetized by the fantasy thousands of fans shared, that the playful rogue could be tender at home. But Flynn's personal life was already running on chaos. Affairs weren't the exception, they were the air. Parties were not events, they were habits. He took a lover on the honeymoon. Imagine that. The boundary-breaking arrogance, casual cruelty. Friends laughed it off as Errol being Errol. But every joke lands like a blade if you're the one bleeding. As Nora carried their children, Flynn faced criminal charges for statutory rape in a highly publicized case. He was acquitted, but the scandal tattooed itself on his reputation. The gap between the heroic poster and the human man widened into a canyon. By the end of the decade, Nora filed for divorce. That might have been the end papers signed, lives separate. Flynn wouldn't let it be clean. He fought for custody of their daughters. Courtrooms replaced sound stages. Photographers replaced fans. Testimony replaced dialogue. Nora described neglect and humiliation. The press snapped photos of Flynn looking ragged, defiant, sometimes drunk. How do you market Robin Hood when the headlines write him as a villain? The custody battle dragged on, year over year. The kind of slow-motion disaster that ages everyone in the blast radius. In the end, Nora won custody. Errol got visitation, and a mythology broken into jagged pieces. The fall from perfect lover to public cautionary tale was complete. 5 years later, he was gone, dead young, riddled with wear and regret, his legend complicated by a life that never learned to slow down. That's the secret lesson of Errol Flynn. Charm can crack open doors, but character keeps a house standing. He never built that house, and everyone he loved lived in the draft.